A YouTuber is now fleeing Ukraine after being indicted for posting videos critical of the war. His name is Gonzalo Lira. You see him here. And we have a Ukrainian indictment. He posted this on Twitter. He says, "I've been indicted, arrested. I was held in confinement in Ukrainian prisons and jails, and I was beaten, and I have now fled the country." And he made this video where he says he's on the border of Ukraine trying to exit the country because they have him scheduled to return back to court because his videos were critical of the war, and they say he's probably going to be going to prison for 5 to 7 years or a longer period of time in hard labor. He's a U.S. citizen. And so he has now fled the country, and he posted this saga in a very wild thread on Twitter. And here's what he said. We'll go through the indictment from Ukraine, but he gave us an update. He posted this July 31st, 2023. He said, "Right now, I'm about to try to get out of Ukraine and seek political asylum in Hungary. Either I'll cross the border and make it to safety, or I'll be disappeared by the Kyiv regime. This is what happened to me over the past 3 months." He says, "On May 1, I was arrested for my YouTube videos. The photos of my arrest are pretty funny. We'll see them. Morning bedhead made me look like a character out of Dr. Seuss. My crime was making videos critical of the West and their proxy regime in Kyiv and how they're destroying Ukraine." And so he posts a couple pictures of his indictment. Now, this one you can see is in Ukrainian, but he also posted the translated version, which we will go through. He said, "Attached to these tweets is the full indictment against me, both the original Ukrainian and English translation. As you can see, even the prosecutor admits I committed no crime against property or any person, and I certainly provided no aid or intelligence to the Russians. My indictment explicitly states that all I did was discuss publicly known facts about the war, the epitome of free speech in a democracy. But Zelensky's Ukraine is no democracy. It's a thieving, corrupt, murderous gangster regime pretending to be a polite Western democracy." Here's a post of the indictment. He says, "Once arrested, I was given documentation assuring me that I was guaranteed the right to contact my lawyers and loved ones, as well as post bail. But in fact, I was blocked from calling anyone, even my lawyers. I was not permitted to post bail, though I had the cash to do so. And in other words, the formalities were carried out scrupulously. They went through the mechanics. But judicial and ethical grotesqueries ruled." That's Zelensky's Ukraine. That's what his thuggish regime cares about, the perception of democracy and the rule of law, so as to mask the sordid, corrupt reality. That's why they relentlessly persecute anyone who tells the truth about the war. I'm not the only so-called propagandist the Kyiv regime is thrown in prison. It's also why they shoot any AFU soldier who dares to retreat. That's why the AFU losses are so horrific, but hidden. As you can see by the indictment, which we'll look at, the video I made that really chapped their rears was Ukraine, quote, a primer, which gives the historical background of the conflict, where I state outright that the invasion wasn't out of the blue. That indeed, it was provoked by the Kyiv regime. Once inside the CISO prison, I was tortured in 2 of the 4 cells I was in by the other prisoners. Guards never beat prisoners. They outsource their torture to the other prisoners. One prisoner actually apologized to me, telling me he had no choice. He wasn't lying. I understood. I got a cracked rib in my first cell. Wasn't too bad. The worst stretch was in my 4th cell. From 1 p.m. on June 21st until 7 p.m. the next day, 30 hours, I was beaten and sleep deprived. My arms twisted the wrong way around at the shoulders and generally beaten pretty bad. I've taken a beating in my time, so sure, it hurt like hell, but it was manageable. But then at one point, 2 thugs held my head and used a toothpick to scratch the whites of my left eye while asking me if I could still read if I had just one. He says, not gonna lie, that was unnerving. Near the end of the session, one of the thugs struck me in the chest so hard, so repetitively, that the beating left a yellow and green splotch dead center on my sternum. He was berated by the cell boss because he left a mark on me. That's a no-no. Perceptions. Then, as luck would have it, 2 days later, when the bruising was in full bloom, a senior guard came to give me a wellness check. Amazing. This was likely because of the Chilean embassy efforts. The U.S. embassy called me 3 times but gave me nothing but support, empty bromides. The guard told me to remove my shirt so he could look me over. The bruising was really spectacular, but he just nodded and pretended he didn't see a thing. Perceptions. He'd check me, right? Why was I beaten to the point of torture? Well, it wasn't over my YouTube videos. I was in prison because of my videos, no doubt. The videos are why the SBU arrested me and put me in the prison without bail. But as they investigated me and examined my computers and accounts, all of which they confiscated and opened, the SBU realized I'm not poor. So once they had me in prison for my videos, the SBU took the opportunity to extort money from me. That's nice. The guards as accomplices, who in turn used the prisoners as the muscle. How I discovered this was too complicated for a Twitter thread, but I'm writing a book about it. All told, they extorted 70 grand USD out of me, split it amongst themselves. They also took another 9 grand when they arrested me, my emergency cash, another 11 grand, which was the bail money. With the computers, iPhone, and everything, I'm out on even 100 grand on this adventure. I've never seen any of that back, not even the bail money, because I've decided to leave Ukraine before my trial. My trial's on Wednesday, August 2nd. I've already been told told I will be found guilty. My sentence will be 5 to 8 years in a prison labor camp. But here's the thing. The conditions of my bail are that I have to wear an electronic monitor, surrender my passports, and not leave the city of Kharkov, much less the country. However, after posting bail, I didn't get an ankle monitor, and they returned my passports. Later, at the SBU offices, they returned my other documents that they had confiscated. My driver's license, motorcycle registration, etc. In CISO, I told an inmate how last year I'd been detained, released, but told not to leave Ukraine. He laughed. He said, "They were telling you to leave." This time, it looks like the same thing is happening. They're telling me not to leave, but they're leaving the door open, or so I hope. Or maybe I'm being set up by them so they can justify putting me away in a labor camp, so no one will know about their sordid extortion scheme. I simply don't know. I decided to die trying. I rode my motorcycle across Ukraine 1,400 kilometers in 2 days. I'm going to Hungary to ask for political asylum. When I fail to show up to court in Kharkov, an arrest warrant will be issued, likely an international warrant. No doubt other EU countries will comply like sheep, returning me to serve 5 to 8 years in a prison labor camp, regardless of the fact that Kyiv arrested and imprisoned me for YouTube videos, for free speech. What happened to European democratic values? LOL. And the US State Department would return me too. I'm not a black lesbian druggie or a transgender grifter. Besides, Victoria Nuland hates my guts, or so I'm told. I'm hoping the Hungarians will read my indictment and say, this is BS. We're not sending him back. I'm posting this thread just as I'm getting to the border checkpoint. I'm also posting videos on the two channels I have access to, the Roundtable and Gonzalo Lira again. So make sure you're following him and subscribe to his channels at the Roundtable and Gonzalo Lira, and of course here on Twitter. If you don't hear from me in the next 12 hours, well, on my way to a labor camp. Wish me luck. And this is an interesting thread. It is also something his father has been working on while he was in custody. The Gray Zone reports that his father, you see here some photos of the arrest in Ukraine. He says, yeah, it kind of do look like Dr. Seuss. These guys show up with weapons in the dead of night. So you're under arrest for what? For posting YouTube videos? Yeah. They drag him into the Ukrainian courts, and his father speaks out. He says the U.S. have demonstrated, when U.S. media have demonstrated any interest of Gonzalo Lira, who is an American citizen, by the way, it has been primarily to celebrate his prosecutions on the grounds that he's, quote, been shilling for Putin. The State Department refuses to answer questions about his disappearance. He's now emerged. The Gray Zone spoke to his father, Senior, about his arrest. He says, I can only say this episode has marked my life. It is living slow death of my son. He fretted that the Ukrainian government was preparing a kangaroo court for his son and lamented that it could lock him up for over a decade for this political speech. He's an American and a Chilean citizen. It sounds like Chile did much more than the United States. He first emerged as a novelist, filmmaker, and a red pill coach. He earned internet notoriety as a war blogger. His analysis of the military operation and harsh criticisms instantly transformed him into a top target of Kyiv. Security agents arrested him for the second time in just over a year. First time he was jailed. He emerged after several days. This time, but they charged him with the crime of justifying Russia's armed aggression and disseminating fakes about the war. If convicted, he faces 13 years in prison, saying he's denying the war, essentially. And so they actually indicted him, and he posted this, and we've got the documents here for our perusal. And we don't often see documents from foreign countries, indictments from foreign countries, especially Ukraine, which is, of course, in the middle of a war. This is what it looks like. This is an indictment in criminal proceedings on the charge against Lira Gonzalo, violating the criminal code of Ukraine. They have his names here. They say he's accused of committing various criminal offenses, and these are thought crimes, namely in the production and distribution of materials containing justification, recognition as legitimate, denial of the armed aggression of Russia against Ukraine, began 2014, as well as the justification and the recognition as legitimate of the occupation of Ukraine territory. In the production and distribution, calling it an internal civil conflict, justifying and recognizing as legitimate the temporary occupation, saying that this has been committed repeatedly. According to the Constitution of Ukraine, they say Ukraine is sovereign and independent, and other armies being here violates our laws, including the Geneva Convention and various treaties. Arguing in violation of the norms, Putin, as well as other representatives who have not yet been identified, are violating all these different laws, and they unleashed an aggressive war against Ukraine. On February 24th, 2022, Russia invaded through armed aggression. Okay, we know all of that, and caused a lot of death. By decree of the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, he instituted martial law throughout Ukraine. Now this new law exists. Along with this, the pretrial investigation of USA citizen Lira Gonzalo, who was in the territory of Kharkiv, had a criminal intent to manufacture and distribute materials, YouTube videos, containing justification and recognition as legitimate denial of armed aggression of Russia against Ukraine, justifying it as legitimate. He carried out his criminal intent at his residence in Ukraine. He used his mobile phone with a built-in camera, and he used a Telegram channel. He was the administrator of the Telegram channel, and anybody could view it. He also has a YouTube channel linked here under the name Gonzalo Lira, which you should subscribe to. He's an administrator, and he publicly posts videos about the denial of armed aggression by Russia against Ukraine. So no later than this date in 2020, continuing his criminal illegal intent, he produced video material under the name saying the Russians are losing? Really? Here's the link. In addition, he also posted this video saying part 1, the false flag will happen in Kyiv. He posted this video, part 2, and he also posted stuff on Telegram, and an unspecified number of people viewed it. Another video post on Telegram, and according to experts, they're doing the same thing we do here in the United States. We have experts, you know. According to experts' opinions of our branch of the alphabet agencies, NSC, ISE, whatever that is, named after the honored professor so-and-so, nice appeals to authority here. The above-mentioned text and video materials, according to these bureaucrats, contain information regarding the support of Russia, and they've expressed, it's been expressed in the form of factual statements, and it involves distribution. Wow, you mean like on a video platform? Brilliant. Nice job, experts. Legal qualification, they say, namely, he's violating this section of the criminal code. Our investigation has established that Lira is a citizen of Chile. He was in the city of Kharkiv no later than December 9, 2023, which I think is in the future. Okay, so this is probably just a translation. Like, he's got a valid visa. He can remain in the territory of Kharkiv until December 9, 2023. So probably was expiring, and then he would have to leave, is how I would guess that is written. Had a criminal intent for reproduction of videos. He posted a bunch of videos from his apartment in Kharkiv on his YouTube channel denying the invasion. No later than this date, continuing the implementation, he posted yet another video and another video. He says the West is now impotent. But according to the conclusion of our alphabet experts, this contains illegal material justifying the temporary occupation. And so according to the Constitution of Ukraine, the Hague Convention, Russian Federation, Partnership of 1997, blah, 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 this is in violation of our laws. He posted yet another video and another video and another video. Now, what's interesting is we're going to see each one of these different charges. So for example, remember in the Trump classified documents case, every classified document that he was in possession of was a new charge. Would this also be a new charge, every single one of these items? In addition, no later than this date, another video, another telegram, another date. And our experts say those batch of documents were also no-no documents. Another video on YouTube and another video on YouTube. This one says the Ukraine conflict, a primer. Along with this, no later than this other date, they list all the investigators, a bunch of people named. They name all the prosecutors. They say there are no victims in these criminal proceedings, no civil lawsuits, no aggravating or mitigating factors, various costs for the investigations. This indictment was drawn up in this location with these people, signed off on by these individuals. Vladimir Malinka from the prosecutor's office out of Kharkiv Regional Prosecutor's Office. So this man has now fled Ukraine for posting videos and speaking out, and his name is Gonzalo Lira. Support him on his journey because he's speaking out using free speech, and the powers that be don't like that when you challenge their efforts.